In the early months of 1577, a pregnant and distressed Spanish noblewoman arrived in Mexico City. Dona Catalina Barbon was a newcomer to Mexico, having spent the previous 5 years living with her husband in La Florida. Dona Catalina had not traveled to Mexico alone. Her 2 young children, both likely under the age of 5, stood at her side, marveling at their new surroundings, a vast urban city that dwarfed the small frontier town where they had been born. Her husband had not made the journey. To understand how Catalina came to be alone with her 2 young children in Mexico City, we have to look into the past, and nearly 2,000 miles away, to Santa Elena, and to the events that precipitated her journey. 8 months earlier, Santa Elena's governor sent Dona Catalina's husband to lead a small band of soldiers in search for a young boy who had recently gone missing. Shortly after their departure, an arquebus fired in the distance, then silence. Hours later, 2 badly wounded war dogs full of arrows limped back to the fort, followed by a Christian Indian who had accompanied the search party. According to him, everyone, including Dona Catalina's husband, was dead. There are conflicting accounts of what followed. Several witnesses testified that the next morning, the townspeople sought refuge in Santa Elena's fort. Soon thereafter, Native American warriors launched an assault. Overwhelmed, the town's residents elected to flee. Dona Catalina and her 2 children barely escaped to one of 3 ships in the harbor. As they sailed away, the young noblewoman watched Santa Elena burn. Now widowed, homeless, and with 2 children to support, Dona Catalina had little time to mourn. She crafted a strategy, one that became increasingly urgent in the following weeks when she learned she was pregnant. Almost 8 months later, Dona Catalina reached the port town of Veracruz. From there, she and her 2 young children began the final leg of their journey, traveling 250 miles overland to Mexico City. Poor, pregnant, and facing an uncertain future, Dona Catalina turned to Mexico's High Court, to whom she presented a lengthy petition for support. To secure royal favor, Dona Catalina highlighted her deceased husband's esteemed service record, her own nobility, and the terrible suffering she had endured. Her numerous misfortunes included the murder of her father, former governor of Catalina, Spain, as well as the recent death of one of her 2 children, a tragedy that occurred just days before she was to give birth to a 3rd. To support her claims, Dona Catalina summoned 5 witnesses, all former Santa Elena residents. Their testimonies convinced the judges to act. In a 1-page brief addressed to Spain's king, Philip II, the judges recommended that the crown compensate the young widow with a pension. The petition ends here. The trail goes cold, and Dona Catalina Barbon disappears from the historical record. But the petition she left behind provides a rare glimpse into the challenges and vulnerabilities faced by many women of the colonial period, even those of noble status. Dona Catalina Barbon's story, though tragic, is also a tale of resilience and survival of a woman, suddenly widowed, left to find a way to secure her own livelihood and that of her children.